Today we have Aubry Mintz. He is on the phone from Long Beach in his office at CSULB, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Jim. It's great to be here. I just want to clarify two things that you just said. It's Long Beach, California, because there's other Long Beaches out there. And the other is a lot of people say CSULB, but I don't think that's official. I think it's official. I've heard either Long Beach State or CSULB. And there you have it.
Okay.
There's my editing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm wondering why I've always called it CSULB. Maybe that was before? I don't know.
Well, Northridge is CSUN, and people do say CSUN because it sounds nice.
Right. CSUN.
The sun.
Yeah, the sun. It's California.
CSULB sounds like something you wanted your doctor ordered and to swallow.
Sorry, Mrs. Johnson. It looks like your CSULB is going to need some help there, ma'am. Oh, no, not again. Yes, I'm afraid so.
Take 2 of these and call me in the morning.
To me, it always sounded like an ocean creature, CSULB. The CSULB is found here floating along in the tide and, or something. But, okay.
So I've been working on a film for a very long time, and it is finally finished as of last week. So,
wow.
Yes, I've finished directing, written, and animated much of a short animated film that's about 9 minutes long, and it's called Nothing to Say.
Nothing to Say. Okay. Are you submitting it to film festivals already, or is it just started?
Just started submitting. We've been accepted into 2 festivals so far, and the festival game is tricky. I'm learning because there's some that won't take you unless you're the premiere. One example of that is TIFF in Toronto. So we're holding on our submissions to basically all of Canada until we find out about TIFF. So if we get in, great. If not, we'll start firing off to a bunch of festivals in Canada after that. But otherwise, we're doing the U.S. and the globe.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So is there any way you can tell us a little bit about the film without spoiling anything?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's a short film about a turtle who lives in a zoo, or he's a new exhibit in the zoo, and the zookeeper gives animals free rein. Everything's kind of open concept. Animals can roam as they wish. And the only rule is that you have to speak your animal sound. You get fed, and you can exist in this community. But the turtle, who's new, doesn't speak, and so he's not following the rules. So the zookeeper has to find ways to get the turtle to talk, and he starts to lose patience and start losing control. And when he loses control, it starts as like a very kind of Warner Brothers, kind of Disney-ish, flat cartoon look, kind of like old Disney shorts. And then when the zookeeper starts to lose control, the artwork starts to lose control a little bit, from kind of flat colors to more like inky Ralph Steadman type look of animation. And then the zookeeper, or the turtle, finally reveals his tail, and then we go into an underwater world, which is all CG animated, and you get to see the beauty of where the turtle's from. And the end of the film, there's one more shift where we go into more of a digital painting, kind of frame-by-frame rendered look. So it's kind of like 3 films in one. And overall, it's a film about educating to instill empathy, understanding those that are different, and having tolerance. So anyway, more on that later, but that's the summary, I guess, of the film.
Okay, and when did you first start this the film, or come up with the story?
Gosh, well, this is where it gets interesting. This was actually an idea for a student film back in 1996.
Oh, wow.
And I was a student at Sheridan College in Canada, And this senior film was the thing you built your whole 3-year career as a student up to. It was always in the back of everyone's mind. What are you going to do for your senior film? So there was a lot of pressure behind it, and in those days it was the late '90s, so the industry was doing really well with traditional animation. Computer animation had just started to surface. Toy Story had already come out. So there was a lot of pressure behind what you're going to do in your film, because this would be your, calling card into the industry. And so I had pitched a few ideas, and
that's great.
Yeah, he had a book was called Where the Sidewalk Ends, and there was a poem called Hungry Mungry about this boy that eats everything, basically. His parents can't feed him enough, and then he ends up eating his parents, and then a bunch of things after. It's great, 3-page story. But my teacher at the time, Ellen Besson, she warned me and said, look, if you go forward with, trying to do another person's idea, you're going to have to get copyright. And
Right.
Students, you don't really think of any of that stuff. I'm like, well, he'd be great because he's a children's book author. Of course, he'd love me to animate it. And so, just in case, I sent a letter, somehow tracked down his info, and I got a letter back 2 weeks later from his lawyer saying, you can't touch this.
Wow.
So, I was already like a month into school at that point, and I furiously had to go through my old sketchbooks to find an idea that I could do for my senior film. And I found this story that I'd written. It was kind of a poem, maybe like a page long, about this turtle on a farm, and the farmer was trying to get him to speak, and he wasn't speaking. And then, working with Ellen Besson, who's great at kind of distilling down story into, what are you really trying to say? What's your premise? We turned it into this story of this turtle that doesn't speak in a zoo. And, I got really carried away with the poem. It was like 6 minutes long at the time. And it was really ambitious. I was working on it with another student named Chris Roy, who was helping me with the boards and the designs and helping co-direct. And it just it was a great story, I think, but it just turned into this really ambitious project that could not get finished in the amount of time that I had. So I didn't get finished, but I got a job anyway, somehow. And I went to work in Hawaii. This was like from Canada to Hawaii.
That's a change.
It was a great change.
Yeah.
It was a welcome change. Leaving the wintry snow to basically living on the beach in Hawaii with dreadlocks. It was quite nice at 23 years old. And then working on a feature film, and the company was called Square USA. It was a offshoot of Square Enix, a video game company that does Final Fantasy. And so I learned how to turn a computer on, and started computer animation work. But the film kind of never went away in the back of my mind. It was just something story was important. I wanted to tell it, but I just didn't have either the skill at the time or just the ability to take on that type of ambitious project. So I kind of put it away and got my experience in the industry. So I worked at Square USA, and then I worked at Industrial Light and Magic as an animator there. And probably about a year into ILM, the way it worked at the time, I don't know how it works there now, but if you're not working on their projects, like I was working on The Mummy, and that project ended, but they still wanted to keep you employed, but your next project isn't ready yet, they'll give you time to train or develop ideas, whatever you'd like to do, just to keep your artistic, development going. And so they introduced an independent project program. And so they asked people if they wanted to pitch ideas for shorts. And so, lo and behold, I had this unfinished film, and I pitched it, and it was green-lit, and I had a small crew, and they paid us all to work on my short.
Oh, wow. That's great. Wow.
So it was, all of a sudden from student film to professional film. And so we reboarded the entire film, redesigned all the characters, and was basically starting to model because it was going to be all CG at that point because it was ILM. And then I think after like 2 or 3 months of working on it, it was a good substantial amount of time. The project many people at the time were supposed to go into was a Universal project. It was a retelling, not a retelling, it was like a sequel, I guess, to Frankenstein. And it was going to be like 20 years later. There's a new evil scientist that wants to build the perfect kind of human monster and digs up the body of the original creature and to get that electrode that's in his neck. It was like this really wild idea, really dark. But I think a few producers changed hands, and the film ended up, going down. And then about 1,500 people, I think, total were laid off that year or the subsequent year. And I was one of them.
Wow.
So here I was, I think I was maybe 24, 25 at the time. And I just started really in the industry. But I kind of had this decision to make because I was really into working on this film now. And so it was either continue going to studios or go back to Toronto, Canada, and work on my short. And so I, working with my brother at the time, Aubry Mintz, who's a producer, he helped apply for government grants, and I went back basically home to my girlfriend's basement at the time and started working on Nothing to Say again.
Wow.
So, so I went back to Sheridan College to TA for Ellen Besson, who was my teacher, and I just sat at the back of a room kind of developing this story. And we basically produced 30 to 45 seconds of animation. I worked with a few other people, and it was all traditional hand-drawn stuff until the point where I had to kind of find a space to work on the film. It couldn't just be the back of the room in the school. And at that time, I was approached by an art director named Jeff Donovan, who had this incredible visual sense. He just got his degree from a great university in Hamilton, Ontario, fine arts degree, and he had just such a wonderful look to his work. It wasn't like what you traditionally see in animation portfolios. He had an amazing sense of design, but his color and texture was just off the charts. So, and he wanted to get into kind of animation storytelling, so he came on as art director. So myself and Jeff found like a low-rent studio in Hamilton, up 72 flights of crooked stairs, or 72 stairs, crooked stairs, to the top of this tiny little studio that had no air conditioning. And we just worked for like a year, I think. Just us. I used the government grants to pay for rent and like microwave breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we made like 1.5 minutes for a trailer for the film.
Wow.
And like we were young and ambitious, and it was like one of the best times in my life because we were uninhibited with creativity, and just we were developing something that we felt would really take off. And people from the animation community in Toronto started getting wind and would come visit the studio or help out here and there. My brother found an investor, and we got a bigger space. The idea was to become a studio eventually. We started taking on a little bit of freelance work, but we just kept like plugging away at this film. They just kept growing, become a studio eventually. And it kind of like got to the point where we were just trudging so far ahead so fast without thinking about, felt like we had limitless money or something. And then one day, we look at our bank account and we all had nothing, and I mean, like, of course, because we're not taking in like all these big jobs,
Right.
But we're just like paying for ourselves. So I mean, not paying ourselves, just paying for food and rent.
Right. Just working on stuff.
Working on stuff. I don't think about it. We were just so caught up in it, and we just basically ran out of money, and I had to kind of rethink my life and say, okay, well, how can I like keep working on short films and not get paid to do them? So that's when I left Toronto and came to Southern California to start teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I figured with the teaching salary, it's kind of just enough to get by, and then you have your summers off where I can keep working on these films. So, I did that for like a year. I started an animation program at Laguna College of Art and Design, and figured I'd work on my film. But, as you may know,
Mm-hmm.
the education world is so easy to take, it's so easy to put your time into your students, and if you're building a program, into the program, and you put yourself as second. And you see it happen with a lot of faculty where, because it's important. You get in the classroom with a student and you see their wants and desires, and you want to help them land on their feet and achieve their goals, but there's only so much time in a day. So after about a year and a half of trying to work on the film, I realized it just wasn't possible, and there was some emotional baggage behind that as well. So I just put it away, and I said, okay, maybe this film isn't meant to get finished. Then, life went on. I worked in education since 2002, so like, 17 years, and freelance, did conferences, started writing. Several projects, but the film was just always in the back of my mind. It's like, I don't know, it's like a hole in my heart. It just, without finishing it, I felt like I'm missing something in life.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you get that kind of that filmmaker's guilt where it's like, oh, this is a good idea, but I don't have time to do it right now, and just
totally
bugging you, and you're like, you should get that thing done. You're like, oh yeah.
Right, and people would ask about it and say, hey, how's your film? Because it kind of became like a little bit of a thing in Toronto that, people knew about, and several people touched and worked on, and from ILM days too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like there was always this reminder, and it's like, how many excuses can I give why I didn't finish my film?
Mm-hmm.
I started another film, and I got pretty far on it, but it, just didn't have the same heart as this one did.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2014, I get a call from Mark Jones he's a chair at Seneca College, animation and creative arts, and that's also in Canada, outside of Toronto, Canada. And he says there's an urban legend about an unfinished film. Oh, I missed a pretty big part of the story. Sorry.
Oh, try again. Take two.
Okay. So back in, I'd say 2000, 2001, my brother was at a animation convention, and he was there for several reasons, but he was also producing the film, and we didn't have a voice to do the narrator, which was, the whole film is a 9-minute poem that I wrote.
Okay.
So, and at the time, my father was narrating it. We recorded my father in my brother's studio, who does mastering. And, I grew up with my father reading to me, like Shel Silverstein, Maurice Sendak, all these great books. And, of course, he's very dear to me and had a huge influence on my life, just all that he's done in his life. But enough people kind of questioned the voice. He's not a trained actor.
Mm-hmm.
So enough people questioned it and said, hey, is that the final voice? So our goal at this animation convention was to find another voice, find an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And so while he's, looking around, Danny Aiello walks by him. And Danny Aiello, I don't know if you know, is
Oh yeah.
he was in Do the Right Thing, Sal the Pizzeria Man, and
Right. Yeah, I just
director.
saw Purple Rose of Cairo recently. I mean,
Oh
I've
yeah,
seen it a long time ago, but he was in that. He's like the husband that wants just to keep his wife with him so he, doesn't have to do anything else, but he doesn't work. She works all the time.
that's right.
You remember
That's
that
right.
one?
He was Mia Farrow's like worldly husband, whereas Jeff
Yeah.
Daniels
Right.
was the movie husband, right?
Right, right. So he's always, what's wrong with you? What's the matter with you? Come on, I don't want to hit
Yeah.
you. I don't want to hit you, but you're going to make me do it. You're going to make me. Come on, give me my breakfast right now. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, what a character he is. Like all of his characters are just they're so rich, and he also played this what do you call it? People that break bones when chiropractor.
Oh,
He played a chiropractor in break bones.
break
Like
bones.
the chiropractor's
Break bones. Wait, what? Hitman?
Hitman? No,
What are you?
chiropractor.
I'm a chiropractor.
He played a chiropractor in Jacob's Ladder. Did you ever see Jacob's Ladder?
I didn't see that one, no.
Oh, it's a great film.
I'll have
It's
to
like
watch that.
Dark, and he plays like this kind of angelic figure, though, where Tim Robbins is the main character in that film. And he goes into this, like, basically post-traumatic stress, or you don't know if it's a dream after, I think, the Vietnam War. And he doesn't know what reality is, and he's all of a sudden in a different marriage. And anyway, I could talk about this film forever, but Danny Aiello was a great character in that, playing this chiropractor.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Danny Aiello walks by. We're back to the animation convention here, and my brother's on the phone with me, and he says, Danny Aiello just walked by. Should I go approach him?
Mm.
And I was like, absolutely. Like, not only did our main character, the zookeeper's name is Dan, but he also had, like, almost the exact same body type as Danny Aiello.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, kind of. So this was done before you met him, and you just had the same character.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Just like you're like, wait a minute, that's him.
That's him. I subconsciously designed Danny Aiello in my film.
Wow.
And yeah, and he went and he developed a relationship with him and ended up getting him to agree to do the record. And so we went out to New Jersey, and he gave us 3 hours of time, and we had this beautiful poem, like beautiful reading, and it was incredible. Like, just it's really like what makes the film for me, and what's kept driving me throughout the years, because it's just such a perfect read what he does with the characters.
Mm-hmm.
So now back to 2014. Mark Jones says, okay, we hear there's a urban legend about an unfinished film that you did with Danny Aiello, and are you interested in finishing? And the strange thing was, like, all these kind of weird coincidences have been happening to me on this project. It was like maybe 3 months before I had taught a summer class in part of what's called CSU Summer Arts. This is in Monterey Bay. It's like a 2-week workshop. I'm just working with students. Like, I think this one was with Nickelodeon. They were developing ideas for a pitch Bible.
Mm.
And we were just talking on the first day about, like, how to get ideas and developing ideas. And for some reason, I pulled out Nothing to Say, the short. And I just wanted to show them how I came up with the idea and my process of developing the animatic and the characters. And I hadn't shown that, the project for, at that time, for like 10, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this weird thing where, like, I just started getting feelings about the film again. Like, I kind of hid these feelings, like I'll never finish it. And now I started thinking about it, and not more than thinking about it, but I started showing it and getting, like, reactions from the audience.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And it was like these reactions, and I'd get them, from time to time, where it would just be like a look on the face, or, someone had questions, or they'd start talking about an idea that they were inspired from hearing this idea. It's really motivating, because you see how, your project can kind of move someone in some way or another. So it was strange, because it was just a couple months earlier I was doing this, and then I get this phone call actually talking about, hey, do you want us to help you finish the film?
Mm-hmm.
And so they have this great summer program where they literally work with filmmakers at any stage of the film, preferably like a little earlier, and they work with either graduate students that have just graduated or in their senior year over their summers, and it's funded, it pays the students, and there's faculty there kind of helping to supervise, and they work with the filmmaker from wherever they are. So the fact that they're in Toronto and I'm in California, it wasn't a big deal. And so I had this amazing, wonderful chance to start up the film again. And that's what I've been doing for the last 4 years. Every summer, I'll go out to Toronto and work with them for about, 3 weeks to a month, and then do the rest through online, conversation through Skype or Google Hangout, and then an online platform called Basecamp.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a crew in Toronto, we had a crew in California, and some people in other places as well. But it's just been like this diligent thing every summer, and then my nights and weekends, at least for the last year, has been totally dedicated to the film, and it's finished.
Hi, I'm Jim R., the host of the Ambassador Good Time Ear Tango Radio Hour, a show for artists, animators, authors, and other creative folks. The show's on every day at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, with new episodes debuting every Tuesday. That's on woodburyuniversity.edu Woo Radio. WU Radio. Woo Radio.
Wow. Okay. Finally got it done. That's one thing is like when you have that project that you've always had in your head and you finally get it done. I mean, how did you feel when it was done? You just kind of relieved, like, now I can move on to something else, or I got that out of the way, or how did you feel about that?
I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, really?
I feel like, well, I mean, it's done. I'm not touching it anymore.
Right.
But it's just been such a drive for the past 4 years that it's been so much adrenaline, and I'm working on the Facebook page and submitting to festivals, and so there's like a promotional element to it now. But I haven't watched it with an audience yet.
Oh, that's the fun part. Yeah, that's the fun part. That's when it's like all the 4 years you've been working on the 5, 6, whatever. When you see it with an audience and they hit those laughs, or if they react, how you wanted them to react, or you always thought that this would be how they should react, and then they do, that just makes it like, I did it. It works.
Or it's like total failure and it doesn't work at all. And,
well, there's that too, but usually they like.
That's a fear, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the risk you take as a filmmaker. It's you're putting your heart out there and hoping that people kind of see it the way you saw it. The other part of this film is it goes through 3 completely different styles of animation. So it's hard. To me, it works. In my mind, it works, but I don't know. Like, it's a leap of faith on the audience's part that they're going to accept it. That okay, this is the same story, it's the same film, same characters. They just look different. And I did it for a specific reason, because each act, there's 3 acts. Each act, it tells a different character's kind of point of view. You can see it through their lens. So this is part of it. This is how they visually see the world, or we visually see them. So it was a little bit of a stretch, like, to get the audience to accept that. So, I don't know if it'll work. I hope it does. But, that's part of that anxiety of, I don't feel like it's done until I get that audience approval, I guess is the way to say it.
Yeah. So you're submitting it now to festivals, and you're just going to see what happens, basically.
Submit to festivals. I'm going to go to Toronto to watch it with the Canadian crew in a couple weeks, or sometime in May. And then we go to Hoboken. It was accepted into Hoboken International Film Festival, where Danny Aiello is. And he's going to join us. And that's cool, because that's where it was recorded.
Nice.
Recorded in Hoboken, too. So That's what I mean. Like these things are starting to
Right.
a lot of coincidence.
Yeah.
All of it. So.
Starts lining. Everything's lining up, and
Line it up.
then someone gives you a turtle, and you're like, whoa, what's all this? And